When two planes carrying migrants landed with no notice in Martha's Vineyard in September, it didn't take long for Florida Governor and potential 2024 presidential hopeful Ron DeSantis to proudly take credit for defrauding nearly 50 people into boarding these planes with false promises of jobs and housing. The stunt was part of Florida's so-called relocation program, as they call it, which sends migrants to sanctuary destinations with $12 million in funding taken from federal coronavirus aid. It's obviously sadistic, but a coalition of immigrants' rights groups argue it's also illegal. The group filed a lawsuit against DeSantis and his Department of Transportation in the Southern District of Florida on Thursday, calling the relocation program, as they said, unconstitutional. And one of the lawyers on the case followed up in a statement calling it, quote, nothing more than an expensive political stunt designed to feed DeSantis's political ambitions on a diet of xenophobic, state-sponsored harassment. Anybody disagree? Well, that lawyer is Ron Sullivan, who's also a Harvard Law professor, director of the university's Criminal Justice Institute. We'll also get Ron's thoughts in a minute on Trump's call to suspend the U.S. Constitution. It's good to see you, Ron. It's been a while.
Good seeing you as well.
What's the basis of the suit? What are you arguing?
Well, twofold. First is field preemption. The second is equal protection. So field preemption is a concept that states the following. In certain areas, certain fields, the U.S. government has exclusive authority over it, and states can't go sticking their nose into these areas. They are preempted from doing so by the federal government.
Immigration is one of them, you argue.
Immigration is one of them. The Supremacy Clause of the Constitution says that whatever the federal government is doing there, it wins out. So that's the first. Second,
well, let's stay with the
protection.
first for a second. I'll get before we get to equal protection. But individual states do things like say that if you want to be a public employee, a cop or a teacher, you have to be a citizen. Why can a state do that? I think that's legal.
Yeah,
and not do what DeSantis did.
Yeah, so certain areas are exclusively occupied by the federal government, like moving people around from state to state. There are certain areas where it will be so utterly chaotic, like Martha's Vineyard, that if you allow each state to do that, then it would just make a mockery of the whole system.
How about the equal protection argument?
So equal protection argument is note that not all migrants were chosen for this program, but only Latin American migrants. And so we made an equal protection argument as well that we think is well justified.
Who are you representing? Who are the plaintiffs?
So we are representing three groups. So these are groups that represent migrants. We're not representing the individuals themselves. And the theory here, I think that's what you're about to ask.
I am about to ask. Thank you very much. Saved a couple of seconds. Go ahead.
And the theory here is that these groups have had to expend extraordinary resources dealing with this stunt. Hence, they have what we call standing to come into court and ask the court to order DeSantis to stop.
So is that what you're looking for, a declaration that he stop and not do it anymore, or financial damages? What are you looking for here?
Two things. So an injunction and a declaration. The injunction means stop it, and a declaration says that this is unconstitutional. So we're looking for both remedies.
You know, as you well know, there are other lawsuits pending, civil lawsuits pending, Lawyers for Civil Rights, based right here. Is suing, I think, DeSantis, but at least some of the major players around defrauding people, the bait and switch with that woman, Perla, I think her name was, who was telling them making one representation and doing it. Do these things intersect, or are they all on separate tracks?
Well, they're on separate tracks. The one you're describing was filed here in Massachusetts and arguing different grounds, and we are important case, but just different.
So if it turns out that you believe that they're violating the Constitution by doing this, I may get my numbers wrong, but I think Governor Abbott in Texas has sent somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 people around the country, a couple of busloads to Kamala Harris's residence, the vice president's residence. I think it's 2,500 people to New York City. And I believe almost all people of color, almost all from Latin American countries. Arguably, I know this is not your litigation, but just so I understand it, is Abbott committing the same offenses or violating similar laws to what you argue DeSantis is doing?
Absolutely, 100%. Someone in Texas can take our briefs, change the names, and it's the same violation. Hopefully, our briefs can be used as a template over in Texas as well.
Yeah, is anything like this ever been done before? I mean, you know, it's pretty amazing. This is a political question, not a legal question. He does this which, and those are my words, sadistic, not yours, and your word is illegal or unconstitutional, and he's portrayed as the moderate alternative to Donald Trump in the Republican Party process for the nomination for president.
Absolutely scary. I will adopt your word, sadistic. You don't treat other fellow human beings like this. It's just wrong morally, it's wrong constitutionally, and they have to stop it. And I'm going to do my particular tool set is constitutional law, so that's what I'm going to use. But it is horrific.
And has there been? I interrupted myself for a change, as opposed to a guest. Has anything like this ever been done in any of these anti-immigrant waves in American history, or is this the first of its kind?
I think this is the first of its kind.
Do you also another political question? A question here, as you know, question 4, that would have a yes vote, which is what it was ultimately, allowed a law giving undocumented people the right to have driver's license stayed in place. I'm not sure there would have been that vote a couple of years ago. Do you think eyes are opening? I mean, Donald Trump, first thing he mentioned when he came down the escalator, as we all know, was they're rapists, they're murderers, that sort of thing. And it really propelled him, it seems to me. Do you think people are learning more and are more tolerant and understanding about the lives of people like these?
I think they are. They see that these are concrete individuals who are impacted. And I tell you what, just really quickly,
Sure.
I was so proud of the way the people in Martha's Vineyard responded. Incredible.
Incredible. And what they wanted to do, they wanted to paint a picture. These are these elite rich people who don't give a damn about low income people, particularly people who don't look like them.
Right.
And it was exactly the opposite.
Yep.
So you also head of the Criminal Justice Institute, and you're a big time criminal lawyer in your current and former life. I'm sure you know this guy in Bexar County, the sheriff in Bexar County in Texas, says crimes have been committed. I don't know if he's identified Bexar County in Texas. I'm not sure if he's identified. Now, playing sort of the role of half-assed lawyer, which I was in my former life, I don't know what the statutes say in Florida or Texas or Massachusetts or even the federal government. Well, I did look up the kidnapping statute. We can talk about human trafficking, kidnapping, false imprisonment. I mean, I understand you have to work with precise definitions. It seems to me it comes pretty close to all those things. You tell people something that is untrue to get them to do something, and then you essentially kidnap them and deposit them somewhere else under pretty potentially adverse circumstances, despite how good the people in Martha's Vineyard were. Am I way off or no?
No, you are spot on. And every time I see you, I am absolutely impressed by your legal knowledge.
Please don't do that.
You still remember. But
no,
but seriously, it's fraud and all sorts of species of fraud and criminal fraud. I mean, there's intent, there's the action, things happen in that particular jurisdiction, conspiracy. I mean, there are a lot of potential charges.
Well, let me put you on the spot. In light of the fact there are 3 states involved, not to mention the federal government, Rachel Rollins is going to be sitting there on Thursday. This is potentially, I don't know what she's doing, but this is potentially something for a U.S. attorney in one of those jurisdictions to look into, no?
Oh, absolutely, because when you're talking about 3 states, that becomes interstate activity, and that's the province of the federal government.
Can we change gears just for, by the way, the status of this is just filed, so obviously there's a little bit of time before we know what direction we're going.
Exactly.
Okay, fine. Can we talk to another thing, since you are a constitutional guy? Trump outdid himself the other day. He goes on Truth Social and he posts, he's referencing incorrectly, as always, a moderation decision around Hunter Biden that was made by Twitter prior to the 2022 election. And here's what he posts. This is Trump. A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. I'm almost embarrassed to ask you the question. What was your reaction to this? And what do you say to the fact that maybe a handful of Republican office holders have criticized him, and at least the initial evidence is he's not going to lose a lot of voters who swear by him because he loves the Second Amendment of the Constitution, but he wants to throw the rest of the Constitution in the trash?
I mean, my reaction was twofold. One, absolutely just dumbfounded that a former United States president said, let's throw out part of the Constitution. And second, my second reaction was just shame and maybe partly anger too, that there was not a chorus of voices from all sides that said, this is wrong, stop it now.
I had the exact same reaction. While I was asking you if you felt there was a bit better environment vis-a-vis immigrants, and I was using as just one example, admittedly it is Massachusetts, but around question 4, but the absence of an uproar where people say this is the final straw. And I know we've all said it's the final straw 1,000 times, but I have to say, even with Trump, I never thought I'd see him post words like, let's toss the Constitution in this case. And the end of the sentence, which wasn't spoken, has put me back in the White House. It's a little disturbing that there's not an uprising over this, is it not?
The scary thing is politicians seem not to be making principled decision anymore. It's all a calculus on who brings them votes, and that's scary. That's scary.
Yeah, I don't know if do you read Andy Borowitz, the great satirist from New York? I think Andy Borowitz nailed it today. Here's his headline from his post: Trump calls for termination of Constitution except for the Fifth Amendment. Do you think that probably?
I love it.
That probably makes sense.
He loves the Fifth Amendment. I'd also point your viewers to the Federalist Papers and Hamilton. The final safety valve to protect our democracy is people of good character. There's an assumption there that people of good character will put people of good character in office, and that people of good character will behave in a certain way. If we lose that, we lose it all.
Beautifully put, Ron Sullivan. It's great to see you as always. Thanks. Good luck with your litigation.
Thank you.
Let us know. Ron Sullivan.